Last time, we talked about people who feel everything too deeply, but many of you came back with a different question, and it was this: what about people who can never say no? Daniel was in a meeting he didn't want to be in. Again, his coworker had texted at 8 p.m. the night before, "Can you cover my shift Saturday?" And before Daniel's brain had even finished reading the message, his thumbs had already typed, "Sure, of course." Everyone at his office thought Daniel was just the nice one, the reliable one, the one who never let anyone down. But what no one in that office understood was, Daniel hadn't chosen to say yes. Something deeper had chosen for him. That story isn't unique to Daniel. Millions of people carry this exact feeling every single day. They wake up tired, not physically tired, but tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Tired of always being the one who shows up. Tired of always being the one who adjusts. Tired of saying yes when every single part of them wanted to say no. And here's what makes it worse. Nobody around them sees it. Because from the outside, people like this look fine. They look capable. They look generous. They look like the kind of person everyone wants on their team. But on the inside, there's a quiet resentment building, a slow accumulation of moments where their needs came last. And the most painful part? They blame themselves for that resentment. They think something is wrong with them for feeling it at all. There's a word society uses for people like this. You've probably heard it used about you. Pushover. Maybe it was said to your face. Maybe you overheard it. Maybe you only ever said it to yourself, alone, late at night, wondering why you can't just be more like the people who say no without flinching. And the weight of that label is real. It doesn't just sting in the moment. It seeps in. It starts to shape how you see yourself. It becomes a story you tell yourself about who you are, and worse, about who you'll always be. But here's where it gets interesting. And I mean genuinely interesting, because what comes next is the part that researchers themselves found surprising. What behavioral science has found is that this so-called flaw is actually a marker of something completely different, something rarer, something that, once you understand it, changes not just how you see this pattern, but how you see yourself entirely. What most people call weakness, researchers call Fawn response architecture, a deeply wired survival system that is sophisticated, not broken, not a character defect, not a personality failure, a system running exactly the way it was designed to run. What looks like weakness to most people is, according to researchers, actually a marker of hyper-activated social intelligence. The yes isn't a malfunction in the system. In many ways, it is the system, just running at a level most people around you can't quite see yet. And that distinction between broken and built differently is going to matter a lot by the time we reach point 4. Today, we're looking at 5 of these patterns. And I'll warn you, number 4 is the one most people don't want to admit. Because it means reconsidering something they've always been ashamed of. Not just the behavior, the story behind the behavior, the reason it started, and the reason it's still running today. Number 1, the automatic yes before thought catches up. You are not weak for saying yes before you think. You are someone whose nervous system learned, very early. That agreement meant safety. What looks like people-pleasing has a name in psychology. It's called preemptive compliance. Your nervous system runs a lightning-fast threat calculation, and agreement is the answer it lands on before your conscious mind even gets involved. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, fires before the prefrontal cortex, the brain's planning and decision-making region, can catch up. In people with this pattern, that gap is wider than average. Your body answers before your mind can weigh in. A 2019 study conducted at the University of Amsterdam found that individuals with high social anxiety showed amygdala responses 40% faster to rejection cues than those with low anxiety, meaning your yes is often a fear response, not a preference. Sound familiar? If this is you, there's a reason for it, and it started long before that text message last night. Number 2, reading the room in real time. Most people see this as being oversensitive. But that reading misses what's actually happening. Your brain isn't picking up too much, it's picking up more and processing it faster. The insula, your brain's empathy and body awareness center, is measurably more active in people who struggle to say no. You literally feel other people's discomfort in your own body. Their tension lands inside your chest before they've said a single word. A 2021 study published in Social Cognitive and Affective Neuroscience out of Oxford found that highly agreeable individuals showed 28% greater insula activation during observed social conflict, meaning you experience their discomfort almost as if it were your own. Most people in your life have probably misread this completely. They call it being too nice. What it actually is a finely tuned social radar, one that most people don't have. Before we get to the next few, I want to pause for a second, because honestly, points 3 and 4 are the ones I find most unsettling. They suggest that what we've been told about people-pleasing is almost completely backwards. How many of these have felt familiar so far? Just drop a number in the comments. Literally just a number. I read every single one. All right, let's keep going, because what comes next gets more specific and more uncomfortable. Number 3, the guilt that arrives before the request does. You are not guilty of anything. You are carrying guilt that was assigned to you by someone who needed your compliance more than your well-being. The anterior cingulate cortex, your brain's conflict monitoring system, fires when your values and your actions don't match. In people who can't say no, this region stays in a near constant state of activation. You are, in a very real sense, perpetually bracing for the moment someone is disappointed in you. A 2018 study from Stanford's psychology department found that people scoring high on measures of Fawn response spent an average of 40% more cognitive time anticipating others' emotional reactions before a social interaction than those who scored low. You are living in a future that hasn't happened yet, trying to prevent a pain that may never arrive, and that misreading has cost you more than you realize, not just energy, years. Number 4, you've mistaken exhaustion for kindness. This is the one most people in your life have probably gotten completely wrong about you. They think you say yes because you're generous. But you and I both know, sometimes you say yes because you're tired of the cost of saying no. That is not the same thing, and deep down, you know that. What looks like generosity is sometimes what researchers call compliance fatigue, a state where the mental overhead of resisting a request exceeds the discomfort of just agreeing. Your yes isn't coming from your heart in these moments. It's coming from your depletion. Maya Angelou is a perfect example of this dynamic in reverse. She wrote extensively about the years she spent shrinking herself to make others comfortable, and how the moment she stopped, people called her selfish. The people who benefited most from her yeses were always the first to label her no as a betrayal. A 2020 study from Columbia University's psychology lab found that people high in agreeableness reported feeling authentically generous only 38% of the time when helping others. The remaining 62% was driven by conflict avoidance. You are not as selfish as you fear, but you are more depleted than you admit. Think about the most agreeable person you know. Chances are, this is exactly why they seem so tired. Number 5. Saying yes is how you learn to feel safe in your own body. This one goes deepest. Because your pattern of agreeing isn't just social, it's somatic, meaning it lives in your body. At some point in your past, conflict felt genuinely dangerous. Not uncomfortable, dangerous. And your nervous system filed that information permanently. What looks like an inability to say no is, in nervous system science, called a conditioned appeasement response. Your body learned that harmony equals survival. So every time conflict approaches, your system doesn't ask you what you want. It already knows what it needs, and it answers before you can. A 2022 study from Harvard's Department of Psychology found that adults who reported chronic difficulty setting limits showed measurable differences in autonomic nervous system reactivity, specifically, a faster sympathetic response to interpersonal tension and to physical threat. Your body treats the word no like a smoke alarm. Even when there's no fire, if this is you, there's a reason for it, and that reason deserves compassion. Not more shame. You are not a pushover. You are someone whose nervous system was built for a world that required you to be careful. Your brain isn't broken. It is built differently. Here's what I find most remarkable about all of this. Every pattern we covered today, the automatic yes, the hyper-empathy, the anticipatory guilt, the compliance fatigue, the conditioned response, none of them are personality flaws. They are survival adaptations that simply haven't been updated yet. You didn't choose them. But you can choose what comes next. The self-blame begins to fade. Not because the challenges disappear, but because now you have a map. If you want to go deeper, specifically, why people with this pattern often attract certain types of relationships, and what the research says about breaking the cycle, that's exactly what the next video covers. I think you'll find it just as revealing. Now! If you were listening to this and thinking this isn't me at all, I actually struggle with the opposite. I find it too easy to say no, and I worry I'm too closed off. That's completely okay. That just means you're at a different part of the journey. The video on emotional avoidance covers exactly that pattern, and it's worth watching back to back with this one. If this kind of breakdown is useful to you, subscribing means you won't miss what's coming next.